just start off with some rapid fire questions. It's going to be a new format for us, but I think it'll be kind of interesting. This is a controversial one, okay? Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I don't really like pineapple on pizza.
Okay.
So I don't really eat Hawaiian.
No. Okay, you know Hawaiian's actually my favorite.
Okay, cool.
Okay, but interesting. What about you? No.
I'm okay with it.
Okay,
I like pineapple in general. Yeah.
Okay, morning or night?
I'm more a night person.
So also night owl, kind of.
In a way, yes. Yeah.
Oh, why in a way?
I guess most of the artists are enjoying the night quietness.
That's true.
So we can focus on what we're doing. Kids are all sleeping, and I can do my things.
Dream superpower.
Dreams about flash.
Or like speed.
Yeah, so I can work on more stuff. I can draw faster.
Super,
Like draw super fast.
Like printing, right?
In a way,
like
yeah.
Printing. Okay, this is the last one, okay? Why don't you post on DeviantArt anymore?
Oh, I guess I sort of move out to DeviantArt when the social media of other platforms start to appear, and I find that reach out to audience in a lot more, in the more mass and general way rather than just a bunch of artists. I think DeviantArt is very focused on artists, but my target audience is more to the general mass, like the comic collectors and stuff. So I guess it's just a natural course of
like you're kind of developed out of DeviantArt and then
because DeviantArt is very enclosed system.
Yes, it is quite, and I feel like it's probably a lot smaller now than it used to.
A lot smaller.
Yeah, so I guess your platform, you're finding new fans.
Yeah, but I'm still grateful to DeviantArt. That's where I started.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of that, I guess let's go into our proper introductions.
Right.
So I think we can talk a little bit about, look at our new setup. We are back in season 2 of Red Dot Comics Den with our lovely guest, Artgerm. So we are very, very fortunate to have this setup and to have Artgerm with us because we have a sponsor.
Yay!
Woo, sponsor, Singapore Comic Con and also the WIP program. Many thanks to Paul for linking us up with Artgerm here today. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with him. So he's an illustrator, a concept artist who perfectly balances the Eastern and Western art styles. He has over 1 million followers on social media. Wow! And he's also a concept design teacher at 3D Sense and the creative director and co-founder of his own concept design studio, Imaginary Friends Studio. So we are so grateful for taking the time out of all these things that you're doing and to join us today. So we're very, very happy. And I actually want to start out just talking about this specifically because I have to say I feel like I've interacted with your art in a very accidental way. You're very, very popular artist, so your art has been there for online for a long time. And basically, the things that I do as a podcast host, I have to research the guests, to make the questions right. So then I was like, okay, I gotta go research, look at the art that you do, look through your Insta, and then I go onto your website, and then I was like, I clicked through and I was like, oh my god, you were the guy who drew all those Overwatch fan art in 2017. Right. And I was like, I used to be so into Overwatch. And I was like, oh shit, it's you all along. And I was like, oh shit, there's this sudden connection.
It happens quite a lot, yes.
Yeah, as an artist, it's huge,
I
think for a lot of us, even if we don't know who is the artist, we've seen a lot of your artwork before. Because the style is very distinctive.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us looking at like comic book covers, variant covers and all that, we can instantly recognize if it's one of your pieces.
I think as long as you are into anime, comic and games, right, you're born into my world.
I will have
You have no choice.
Oh no. It's like we just have to interact with your art. I love that though, actually, because that just shows like how kind of ubiquitous you are now. Like you're such a big presence in the comic scene that, we can't have like variant comics without you in a way. And maybe we can talk a little bit about like how your relationship to the comics industry began. Like we know your bio, like how you started out drawing. You've talked about that a lot in many interviews, but I'm also curious about how exactly you began your journey with comics since comics.
Yeah, so
podcast,
I think I just mentioned to you that I don't really grow up with comics.
Yeah,
I grew up with anime and manga a lot more because I was born in Hong Kong. So only interacted with American comic when I came to Singapore and during my studio time when I was running my studio. I started to receive a lot more job from the comic world, and that's how it started. So my first comic project was G.I. Joe. Yeah, so I did a cover for them, and then they are so well received. Then eventually they give us even the interior pages to work on as a studio. And
also, they contacted your studio first to start the comic.
Correct.
To write the comic. I see.
Correct. And then the editors in DC, they saw my work and was really excited to have me work on the covers. That's how I started working on comic covers in maybe 5 years down after I set up my studio.
Wow. But you said, I think like just now you were talking about how you actually don't really, like your studio is not really as full-time as it used to be. Actually, I'm quite curious about that because we don't really know about this kind of thing. So you can talk more about this transition?
Sure.
Perhaps, from working
so now there's a bunch of young people coming together, try to do something for the entertainment industry, and it was tough because there wasn't any existing studio like us as a role model for us to follow. So we try to figure our way out and make quite a few mistakes along the way, but we grow to it and then learn more, and then people start to get more established. The skill set of the artists start to improve, and then there are more opportunity coming to our way. And by the same time, we also understand that living in Singapore is not cheap. So the cost of living also increase, and then my artists start to get older. They start to think about getting married and have their own family. So I think it's time, because we create quite a safe haven for the artists, and people may get complacent sometimes. That means they're so comfortable within. So I think it's not very good moving forward. So eventually I advise all of us to why should we go independent and try to find a way while having each other as a support group behind. So that throw them into the ocean, so to speak. But somehow each of us managed to find a way, and then now we come back together as friends. That's why I can imagine friends.
Right.
Yeah. So
Imaginary Friends Studio is the same group of friends.
It's the same group of friends, but it's no longer just an employer-employee kind of relationship. More like a collective. A bunch of friends helping each other in the art world. So at times we have projects that we can collaborate with each other. We will do it. At times they do their own things. It's okay. Sometimes our clients coming to me a project, I'll just send to them. Like, hey, take this.
So it's more of like a Imaginary Friends Studio is now more of like a community group than really just kind of like a company studio kind of thing. Oh, that's quite interesting. Because one thing I was actually kind of curious, because you mentioned about how you found the Singapore cost of living is very high, and you also work with a lot of international brands, and a lot of artists, I find, especially in Singapore, when they have all these international opportunities, they start going like, I guess I'll go to the States, and then they just stay there, right? Which there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm very curious why you said that you had this difficulty, say, with cost of living or with artists getting complacent, and then you decided to stay.
Yeah, there's a longer explanation to that, because once we set up a studio, I also become the role model for many people around the region, like Indonesia, Philippines, and Malaysia. And then people start to gather and set up their own studio in their country. And to be honest, in terms of cost of living, there's no way for us to fight people from Indonesia and Malaysia and Philippines. But they also increase in the skill, but they can afford to take lower fee because of the cost of living. So slowly, if we do not do something about it, we'll lose our edge. Competitiveness.
This is a huge problem in Singapore with Singaporean artists. I mean, we know that those in Malaysia or Indonesia, they can kind of get by on with less fees for a while. They can be very selective about which projects they do. But then in Singapore, the pressure is constant, right?
Sometimes when we take a project, for example, we draw a piece of work, within 3 days we have to finish it. If we don't finish it in 3 days, it will not be profitable for us because of the cost, right?
But 3 days is such a short term.
For people in Indonesia, you can take it for 1 month. One piece of work for 1 month, just one piece, and still living very happily there. So it's a very different kind of economics.
Definitely, for sure. And because you've had such of this really long kind of artistic career, what did you feel? What was kind of the most difficult thing that you felt like you had to deal with throughout this entire
also as an artist, it's not so much of difference difficulties, but I do think that as a business owner, it becomes very challenging because we only focus on our craft, our work, right? But running a business is a very different thing. So when I was being placed in a position that I need to support the entire studio, that means the running cost, expense, everything's on my shoulder. That become really difficult because was not trained in that way. So there's something I have to learn by making mistake and learn. Again, so that was the challenging bit. I think secondly, I also treat my guys as family, like friends. So sometimes you need to make hard decisions as a boss, right? As a leader.
It's very difficult to be like a boss and
that's
then
I want to
still
let
kind
go
of
someone.
be friends.
I'm not letting go of employee. I'm letting go of my friend. And that's really, really challenging.
That's very difficult. And then after that, you'll be like, oh, then you have bad feelings, like why you fire me,
correct.
or like
too much emotions.
So I guess that maybe that's contributed to how like, okay, maybe it's time for us to go independent, right? Is it you not have to
way,
deal
but
with
I'm
that?
more worried about the sustainability. If the studio no longer around, can they survive independently? So I was thinking that while we still have project coming in, while still we can send project to them, let them transit into the independent artist route a lot earlier. So let them get used to it with supporting them. It's a hard decision.
So you also started getting a lot more of your own personal variant cover work through Imaginary Friends Studio, and then after that
Imaginary Friends,
you started out with them then. Right, and so you've worked on a lot of things since then, and I'm just kind of curious, like, do you have like, which one do you kind of remember the most fondly of?
Generally for project?
Yeah, like...
I would say that the project I had with Capcom, and when I was creating new artwork for Street Fighter 3.
Maybe you can try and find that artwork and show it off here on the screen.
They were releasing Street Fighter 3, that's right, with the online capability. That means an online multiplayer capability. That means an online battle capability. So they want to create a new set of artwork to go with that. So they came to me.
Right. So you were creating character art, is it?
Yeah, a new character art for the existing game.
My gosh.
A remake, so-called. That was really exciting because I go up with Street Fighters, I skip classes,
oh my gosh,
skip lunch just to save up so that I can battle with people in the arcade. So that was a really fun thing. And now
it's like a dream project.
Yes, having the opportunity to work on that and load up the game with my own art on it. That was really magical.
Oh my god.
Which characters? Which characters?
I drew everything.
Everything?
In the game.
Is it like, when you select the character?
Yeah, the character
portrait.
Oh wow. Oh my god, that's actually... So, I mean, that's what I mean when I say like a lot of us have come into contact with your work. Because like something like doing the character art for Street Fighter is like...
I didn't even realize.
I love Street
I think,
Fighter,
that's so interesting. Really like also since when you're young also, like Street Fighter.
Yes, of course. I played a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom. Growing up.
Also arcade kid also.
I played PlayStation with my cousins. But I also played in the arcade. But then I didn't like fight people because I was very lousy.
I could never fight those young kids like 10, 12 years old. They can just trash me.
Oh my god. I mean, do you still go to arcades? I'm just curious.
People don't go to arcade anymore. Yeah, but there was a period of time I still tried to go to arcade. In Hong Kong, arcade is very common.
Yes.
So when I moved to Singapore, it's hardly find an arcade shop. Back then, like when I first came.
Some malls will have like a small one. Nowadays, I think there's almost none. I think Vivo City still has one.
Yeah, but now people just play online.
I think if you have like mobile games, you have like PC games, like why go to an arcade?
Yeah, the world has changed in that sense.
Yeah, that's quite cool actually. So like in that case, right, you worked on a lot of things for other people. So I know you also have your own personal pepper project, right? But what about, let's say, if you have, like, if you would imagine kind of this ultimate, like, project that's drawn by you, a comic or a, I don't know, like an art book, like what would it look like? Or what genre would it be? Or like what characters? Or like what would be the story or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I was asked a lot, like, what's my dream project? To be honest, I don't have one. My dream is always try to enjoy my art, and that's actually a lot more challenging because as you improve, the benchmark is a lot higher for you to get the same level of enjoyment.
Right. Do you feel more critical of your art as you get?
Yes, I do. I believe that if I can increase my level in maybe just 5% every piece of work I do, generally I'll be improving. But now it's not just about the technical aspect of it. Also take into account of the audience, like for example, when I do comic covers, people like to collect my covers. So, so I need to ask myself, would it get to the point that they get tired of my cover and they will stop collecting or they'll slow down collecting?
Then you're like, oh, that's my career. Oh no.
It's not really. It's just like I want to keep doing new things to keep things fresh, so that they will every time they see a new piece of work, say, oh shit, I didn't know that Artgerm can do that. Let me collect it. Like take my money kind of idea. So I still like to have the kind of mindset to keep reinventing myself.
I had that moment actually because I have a friend who's a fan of your art, and I found out through the research again where I was like, oh, she's following you on the Instagram. So I was like, do you have any questions you want to ask Artgerm? And she's like, oh my god, you're interviewing Artgerm. And she had some questions on art style, and she was kind of curious. Actually, she showed me this cover. That was where I had that moment. I was like, oh, you can do something like this. It was I think you're doing some kind of vintage DC Comics cover for Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn.
The sirens.
Yes. It was like the DC 100,
yes,
like
correct.
this, like where you did like
Detective
a normal.
1000,
Yes. Like you did one in your normal art style, and then one in this kind of blocky color, like
retro
hardline,
style.
Retro style. Oh, I really love that. And I think like she was actually I'm just like shout out to my friend, where she was saying she was very curious to find out like how you translate, because you work in a lot of mediums. Because for example, like here, right,
those
you
are
have this.
traditional.
So this is traditional art, and then your variant covers are often in
Mostly
digital art.
digital.
So I think she was very curious to find out like how did you kind of how do you make sure to keep your art style consistent throughout all these like mediums? Like make sure that it looks still like it still looks like something by you, but because she finds that not a lot of artists can do that. Like it's either they are very very proficient with one medium, and then another medium you feel like actually that they're not that they don't have that good of a grasp, or like the style just changes completely. So she's kind of curious, like how do you manage that?
I think most important is the foundations. So I also stress a lot on art foundations, because that's a building block of everything. So style is a layer of recipe. So imagine foundation is the ingredients in cooking, and then style is different recipe to make use of the ingredient. So once you understand the ingredient, then you can apply different recipe to this ingredient to cook different dishes. So I think of it that way. So if your foundation is strong, that means you know how things work in terms of the art, or how to depict certain ideas, or depict the structure of the anatomy. You can try to exaggerate them. The exaggeration is the art style. So realism is no art style. So when you apply a stylization, let's say anime with big eyes as a model, those are a recipe that you apply, and that will generate different art styles. So you need to be comfortable with that. That means your foundation need to be really strong in terms of art, in order to be flexible to go from one to another. And there's also come to the point that you need to be courageous enough, because the people hold on to their own art style too tight.
They're so comfortable, right?
Yeah, and because they acquire the popularity or recognition from that particular style, they feel really hard to change. But I always advise young artists is that the reason why people like what you're doing, because you've been doing what you love. So if you change an art style, it's not moving away from one to another, you are actually expanding it. So people always talk about, comfort zone, you have to step out of your comfort zone. It's not really about stepping out of your comfort zone, it's about expanding your comfort zone. So if you try different things enough to the point that you are so comfortable with many things, so you can hop from one to another or mix and match. I think that to me is the idea. That's why I like to change things. I mean, generally I like to shake people up. When people say, oh, you can only draw hot chicks, you can't draw dudes. Let me show you dudes I can draw pretty well. And then, can't draw creatures or ugly faces. Let me show you how I do it. So I like that idea. Oh, you just do digital stuff. Everything's just digital, easy. Then I show you traditional stuff.
Just challenge their perception
in a
of
way
you.
So it's like art can't be constrained by just medium.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, you were mentioning about this whole thing with recipes, right? And like how style is basically like putting things together. And you've mentioned, I think, in an interview also about like how finding your style also is about like trying all these different recipes and then putting different parts of all these recipes together to find your own. So I'm curious, what's your how did you find your own recipe, and what were you looking at?
By trial and error, of course. I think I grew up with manga anime, right? So naturally my style geared towards that.
Yes.
And then I slowly encounter something more Western, and I put the Western recipe into the mix. So now I would say that my art style is more like in between.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see how our audience respond to it, because when you talk to the Western people, they will see that my art is very anime. When we talk to Asian audience, they say my style is very Western. So I guess I sort of like in between.
It's good that you have this like mix in between.
Yeah.
But like, did you have like specific artists or like
like
a manga series you're looking at, artists that you were like inspired by, that you feel like, oh, when like there's this particular thing from this artist I really like and I'm going to incorporate in my art.
Yeah, I think maybe generally I'm not the kind of fanboy, right? In the sense that, if I like this artist, whatever this artist show, I will just wholesale love it. I don't. So I still look at it in a more objective way. There's certain things I like about this artistic particular piece. I will extract it and ask myself, can I use it? Or is it something that is relevant to me, that I can mix it into my work? I will constantly ask myself that kind of question. So so in general, I do have inspiration from many artists, and then my taste also changed. Things I don't find appealing in the past, now I find it more attractive.
What's something?
Oh, just like in the past, I don't even look at Western art. No, I do. Now I look at Western. Let's say, for example, comic art has certain value that I think that I can extract. That I also appreciate certain attribute of the Asian art, especially for some manga, the way they tell the story. You know, see, Western comic industry is like very bang,
action
fast,
right?
Asian is different. You will shoot a basketball, you take a whole book to talk about that shot.
Then they go into the mind, and then like you figure out like, when he was a child,
the childhood, right?
Like how everything he did in the past influenced this one moment.
Exactly. So there's certain value in both East and West that I enjoy.
Actually, speaking of this, right, I just found out that apparently you drew this artwork of Xiaolongnü.
Yes.
Yeah, have you seen it? Yeah. So you drew it for like a Hong Kong trading card game.
I think so.
Actually. Yeah, so she drew like the Xiaolongnü artwork, and then like when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, because we worked on this like Condor Heroes comic by Wee Tian Bing. I'm not sure
correct.
if you
Zhang Ming.
Also you read like, have you read? So you read.
I encountered his work when I first came to Singapore.
He's also one of the very few like comic artist studios
in
Singapore. Somehow survive until now. So that's the only other comic studio I know of in Singapore actually. And they started out, I think it was also a group of friends. In like someone's house.
I feel like that's how a lot of like good, and that's how a lot of people start out, just like with friends, with your community, and then you build something out of that together. And actually this question was bouncing around my head just now when you were talking about how you've grown more critical about your artwork. What is something that when you're drawing you kind of hate about like what you're doing?
I usually don't have the kind of idea that I really hate. I mean, but as an artist, every time you finish a piece, you feel happy about it. Then 2 weeks later, you look at it, it sucks.
Yes.
Like I wish I can do this or I've done that. I think that still happened to me. But it's not that because I hate it, because now I can see something that I could not see in the past and hope that I can apply those in the next piece.
Okay.
I think that's generally what we are doing.
Right. Then what about, say, like in something like here, right? Is there something here that you had an art piece where you were like, actually, I felt like I could have done something more?
Yeah, I can say that for every single piece.
Okay, you can pick one and then
no, it's not really that. I mean, it's the general idea that I'm just critical about everything. But at the same time, I need to acknowledge that was the best I could have done in those situations.
That moment.
Then you need to acknowledge that. Otherwise, you become very miserable. Every time you do something and then you think it sucks. But at the same time, you need to appreciate that. Which I think many artists do not do. Which I always advise the student, always take stock of what you have improved. Even though you think you suck at certain things, right? At least understand why you suck at it and try to make sure that you rectify those things in the future.
I feel like your attitude is very healthy also because maybe because of your teaching experience. I mean, is it something that you've always had or something that you kind of learned?
Yeah, actually I'm a more positive person. I think that also something that I always encourage students to do it. Because many people take failure in a very negative light. They think that, oh, I failed, that means I'm a loser. But no, I tell them that in your whole life, everything that you learn through failure. Like you learn to walk by falling. Right? you learn to ride a bicycle. I told them, let's say I teach you how to ride a bicycle, let's say in art form, right? So I show you the bicycle, I explain the mechanic of the bicycle, I even demonstrate to you how to ride a bicycle. Does that mean that you hop on the bicycle and start riding? You cannot. You still need to fall to build the muscle memory. So failing is the only way to learn. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Is that like, because as I know as an educator, you've probably met a lot of like young talents that also go through this, right? So like, what do you feel like is a trend or phenomenon that you notice when it comes to young artists? Like, you work with them in 3D sense. So like, what do you notice about this trend, and then like what kind of like your thoughts about it? Is it?
Yeah, I think people are a lot more sensitive to criticism now. I think mainly because of social media.
Yeah.
They take it very personally when people like or don't like about their work. They forget that you as a person, there's also a lot of things that you like and you don't like. Right? But unfortunately, in terms of social media, in the past, like for example, you have a restaurant. I also like to use food as an analogy because people like to eat in Singapore, right? Okay.
Everybody eats.
Yeah. So you go to the restaurant, if you don't like the food, you just walk past it. But now social media is different. If you don't like the restaurant, you go inside the restaurant and tell people, I don't like it.
Starts complaining.
Well, that's social media now. So everybody has a voice now. So it's very easy to get negative comment, but not knowing. And sometimes students take that too seriously, not knowing that actually people has a taste. But I mean, art is based on taste. Right? You cannot please everybody. Not everybody is your fan. You are not a fan of everyone as well. So you need to take a step back and focus on people who matter to you, who support and believe what you're doing, and focus your energy on those things rather than some random trolls.
Do you have some, personal experience in this area also? Like, say for yourself, like, taking
on a daily basis. I think the higher you get, the more of such things will happen to you, and you just need to understand that the people who don't like what you're doing, there's people who don't like my art, and that's okay. And that's totally okay. I always ask myself the question: does my client like my work?
Yeah.
Does my work contribute to the sale of the client? If both are yes, I'm okay already. What else? They pay me money for it and make sure that the book sell like hotcakes, and if it does, okay.
Yeah, then it proves that they like it.
Yeah, and most important is that for those people who don't like my work, let them channel the energy to those work that they like.
Yeah, to other things.
And support those people rather than just being a hater for everything.
It's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You want to waste your life on me.
Yeah,
That's your
I'm totally
business,
okay.
right?
I'm very true on all those because I grew up with in the era with those social media. My social media was
so
just
nice.
my family.
Without that, there's no like, you don't have all this cacophony of voices.
No, I don't need to farm for likes and stuff. I don't need that. So do just so naturally, I'm quite resistant to any of the social media things.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
I'm just curious, like as a young artist, was your family very encouraging, or do they criticize your work? I'm just curious.
When I first decided to be an artist, I told my parents that I want to study art or pursue art, and they were quite skeptical. And
as
I
expected.
understand Asian parents or what to expect. So I think they're skeptical because they are not sure if my work will appeal to the public or my work can sell. So my dad was a lot more skeptical because he understands art is subjective. My mom is more encouraging.
Oh, that's good.
But that's okay. So I told my dad, right, it's all right. I'm skeptical about it also, but give me a chance to prove it. So I asked my dad to allow me to pursue art. I need to show him that I can make it. And now he's just bragging about me all the time.
That's great.
Look at my son.
But he still don't understand what am I doing. Yeah. Yeah. In the past, when relatives ask him like, hey, what does your son do? Oh, my son drew cartoon. I said, Dad, I don't draw cartoon, right? and then now that he upgraded, he said, oh, my son is into animation. Dad, I don't do animations. So now he was waiting for me to explain to him, like, Dad, I draw Batman, I draw Superman. Oh, I see, I get it now.
But then to him, that's animation, is it?
Is he still like, still cartoon?
So do your parents, like, say right now, like, do they still see your work and follow your work?
They will not actively follow my work, but they'll find every ways and means to brag about me when they're in front of others.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, the proud parents at Chinese New Year being like, my son, look at my son, so successful.
Yeah. Okay, that's nice.
Actually, I'm kind of curious about this question. was that I know you do a lot of your artwork in the original, like in traditional media, and then you kind of put these up for auction, right? What's the most you have what's the most your piece has been auctioned for?
Yeah, for small piece like that, with some piece, those are actually A4 size. The most I think is about $7,000 USD. I mean, yeah.
Wow, people are really. Which piece was that?
It was Magic, MAGIK, from a Marvel X-Men. Yeah. But some people are really, really hardcore. I mean, I don't even buy my stuff. This is so expensive, right? But yeah, some people are really into it. I really appreciate it.
I mean, he probably paid $7,000 thinking next time he can, sell it.
Just wait for me to die.
Yeah, I mean, for them, these are investment pieces.
Yes, the collectors will come to me and say that I've been buying your work. Hopefully one day you get big enough so that I can go into retirement. I can sell everything and just have a happy life after that.
Well, these people, they're really counting on you then.
Yeah, so I make sure I don't screw up.
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
You have like all these other people that you have, they are like depending on you now. Actually, like because of how big art is, like kind of like a part of your life, right? So other than drawing, like what else do you kind of do, like games or like
Yeah, I game quite a bit, but now the challenge when you get older, you got money, you don't have time.
Yeah.
So I got time to buy game. I don't have time to play game. So that's the sad thing. But I do try to play, or sometimes play by watching YouTube. Nowadays, people like to play game by watching Just watch it and say, okay, I played the game already in a way.
I did that with Uncharted, where I watched the whole of, like, it's Uncharted 4 or something, and just watched the entire game on YouTube, and then I was like, I guess I know. Yeah, it is. That's why I could watch the whole thing. But I for some reason, when I get stuck on a game, I'll get stuck on it and be like, damn. It's so draggy now, and then I feel like it's I just want to know what happens next. So that's why people I think like to watch playthroughs.
Unfortunately, people are not as patient in the before. Especially when you're young, you want to have a small sum of money and you want to make sure you squeeze the game dry.
Yeah.
Now you don't. It's like you play a few rounds, okay, not so fun, then move on to the next one, right? But I still need to be more relevant because I'm still working in the entertainment mode.
Yes.
So I still need to know that what's in, what's trending, what's appealing to the young audience, so I can create artwork that's relevant to them.
Do you feel like you have to create this kind of appealing artwork to be, I don't know, to get people looking at your art or something like that? Do you feel like
only if it's appealing to me? I will not create something solely just to please the audience. But thankfully, my taste is relatively common. So most of the things that I draw, people tend to respond to it quite well. Yeah, so I don't have any niche taste. My taste is quite general.
Okay, what kind of games or say like maybe movies or what things have you recently felt influenced by? Things that you like?
Nowadays, I will not say that, this particular attribute that I influenced by, but more like, generally, I just know that this kind of style, this kind of quality, people are more into. Like now I'm playing Uncharted. No, not Uncharted. God of War.
Okay, God of War. Yeah.
Ragnarok.
It just came out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fun because it's about the father and the son thing. So it's two boys. I can totally relate to that. So that's fun.
I started playing it recently also. I mean, but the previous one before, right?
Yeah, it was good, right?
Yeah, the gameplay, the fighting and all that is amazing. It's still to me like I'm just like totally mind blown.
Yeah, many times I would just pause the screen and just look at the environment, look at the environment design.
I think that's when you know like a game is good. It kind of like makes you slow down instead of just like gunning through the whole thing, but then you slow down, you enjoy the environment, and then you're like, okay, I really take in and absorb the game. And I think that's how you know that the game is successful.
But generally, that's how I approach all kind of entertainment content that I enjoy and being entertained by it. At the same time, I will look at it from an artist's point of view, to break things down and ask myself, why does it look so appealing to me? It's the story, the design, the interface. Like I will really break down everything. But that's not something that I do it consciously. It just naturally. I will just look at it.
You kind of look at things with a critical eye. Well, then you can kind of be like an art critic also.
In a way, to myself, like I do a lot of Q&A with myself. Like, why do you like it so much? if you have a chance to change it, what will you change it, or how do you improve it? Something like that.
What was something like? Do you have like a game like that where you had this moment with yourself recently?
I don't remember it in a very specific way, but that's naturally just how I do it. Even reading comics and stuff,
Right.
I read it like a reader and enjoy the story. That's with this panel, if I can compose it in this particular way, I think it's more impactful to me. Or if I'm the one doing it, I will choose to change to different camera angle. I will think of it that way.
Actually, that's kind of great because I feel like nowadays people passively consume many things, and I feel like I'm very guilty of that sometimes when you're just like, I want to consume this thing, not really want to actively think about it. But the fact that it's so subconscious for you is really, really great because then you're not actually putting, I feel like sometimes you feel like you need to put in like active brain power to look critically at something.
So if you can train enough,
yeah.
right, it becomes natural for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really, really cool that you can do that.
Yeah, it sounds like something that you have to kind of cultivate as a habit, like this kind of process of like introspection and like and I guess it's some sort of like analysis of like your own aesthetic responses. Because a lot of us like will see something, then we're like, oh, I don't like it, or I like it.
Yeah.
I don't think we really sit there and like think to ourselves like, oh, you know, what is it telling me? What am I responding to? But yeah, I shall try to do
You
that
do
more.
the same if you like to cook. When you go for a restaurant and eat something, you ask how did they cook it.
Yeah.
Naturally, you do that, right?
True.
It's like, hey, I think it's a bit salty. If I may reduce a bit of the salt content, you may say that. So that's how you do it.
Yeah,
naturally.
that's true.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably something that we could be doing more often also. Like instead of just like, okay, I finished this thing and we'll move on to the next thing now. Sit with it, like, and then just like absorb it. And then actually, I feel like you learn more from whatever you're consuming also. Then you're like, okay, like I really, really engaged with that particular content. And I think like whoever made it will also appreciate much more that you actually sat with their work. Yeah. So I think that's really, really cool. One other thing that I also wanted to hear more about is that you have this pepper project as well that you've talked about before. So do you want to talk a little bit more about this pepper project and like what you hope to do next for her perhaps?
Yeah, it started when I was running an advertising agency.
Yes.
When I didn't get a lot of chance to draw, I like to draw. So eventually I created a character called Pepper. And back then my role was a director. So I need to tell my designer which art direction to go. So I want to create some kind of tool for myself to explore different art style. So Pepper project was created for me to explore different art style and get comfortable with that. So basically the idea of expanding your comfort zone. So that was my way of doing that. So I get to draw her in different way, different form, different art style, whatever that inspired me at the moment I drew it. So there was no long-term game plan for that. There wasn't even story about that. When it first started. Then after that, I started to think about, maybe if I make it a comic, what would the story be like for Pepper? So I start to bounce off some idea of my friends, some writers, and think of some ideas to support that. But then at one point of my life, I was trying to make a comic, let's say on Webtoon. I think when Webtoon, the managing director of Webtoon saw me and said, oh, I really love you to be part of this platform. Then I'm thinking, it's cool, but at the same time, if I go into doing a full-fledged comic, that means I'm going to turn down everything else.
Yeah, it's
like you have
Huge commitment. I said, should I want to do that? So now I just put it on the shelf and think about it later.
So like, but what about like even just like short form like sometimes you just draw a few comics here and there?
That's a problem because I'm quite sure that I can do a pretty decent job for that. And once you're a decent job, you start to get good response.
Yes.
And sometimes it compel you to do the next one.
Oh, you're worried about starting that process?
Yes, like to be well received. And okay, so now what? So I've been caught in a very difficult situation.
Right. Oh, that's kind of cool actually that your response is that, oh, I'm worried if you'll be too good and then people won't let it go.
Decent enough.
Okay. No, I'm sure it'll be great. But like a lot of people, I think like they're like when they do things like they're very fearful of people being like, oh, that'll suck, and then you know it backfires on you. So I think that's also a very interesting mindset that you have. Yeah. So clearly you're very well adjusted.
I am.
Yes, like you are very introspective. You know yourself very well. But like, what is something you would like to say to, say, your younger self, the one who had been dreaming about an artist, was dreaming about being an artist, but kind of like has no idea where to go? Like, because before you were this well adjusted, I'm sure you've also had your own struggles.
Yes, I mean, my struggle was that there was no one to teach me art back then. There wasn't even internet. So everything that I learned about art is through things I can get from library or just reading comic books or reading manga and try to learn from it. And that was a very long process and you cultivate a lot of bad habits. And we can imagine if you started drawing anatomy by looking at Dragon Balls and Goku.
Yes.
Everything that you draw will look like Dragon Balls, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't have a foundation for me to build art on. So my whole life I was trying to find that mentor, you know what I'm saying, to show me the way of art, but I could never find one. So now growing up, I want to be the mentor for somebody. So I want to be the person that's mentor that people are looking for. That's why I started teaching. And that become a very fun journey for me because I can trace back my step when I was young. What are the sort of things that what kind of mistake that I made, what kind of mindset that I had, I can apply that to the student now and be able to relate to them. Yeah. So if I'm going to talk to my younger self, I say play less game,
play less games,
and then try to build a foundation earlier.
But your foundations are very strong. If you're already like saying you should play less games, I'm just thinking like, but you clearly already have been working on your art a lot, because if not, you wouldn't have.
Yeah, in a way, but I take a much longer time to accumulate that kind of knowledge rather than people like my students nowadays who keep them 5 years.
Yeah, right. Young, they're like
years.
Young teenagers, right? They're just like 17, 20.
Yeah, because the information are not more accessible. You can find tons of tutorial online on YouTube that is free. So. But at the same time, it's also become more challenging because now you also need to filter out what some of the not so good tutorials so that you don't learn the wrong things. Yeah, so being a mentor in my school, that's what I can educate them and direct them to the right.
Oh, interesting. So you tell them, don't go to this guy.
I would say don't go. I will not just brush off like that. I will just break it down for them why it doesn't work and explain to them why it doesn't work.
Actually, that's a very good way to learn, because sometimes taking a bad example is also like kind of
helpful.
Of course. Yeah, in that way. So since you've had so many, like, you've taught all these young talents so much and you've given them a lot of advice, what's your kind of like golden tip? Like, if you had to pick one out of all the advice you've been given or you have given, what is something that you would consider kind of like the crown jewel and the king of all art tips or something like that?
There are a long one and a short one.
Okay.
The short one is to have fun. Many people take art seriously to the point that it becomes too critical. And learn to have fun. I would say that because like you learn a lot by having fun. For example, if somebody play Dark Souls, anybody play Dark Souls here?
Anybody play Dark Souls
game, Elden Ring or something?
Yeah. Also watch another playthrough.
I mean, it's a tough game, right? You die all the time. And I have friends who play, I don't play, I have friends who play and say like, you keep dying, 1 hour later I look at you, you're dying at the same location. Why are you playing this? They say because it's fun. So art can be like that. So when you enjoy the process, although it's tough, it becomes a rewarding experience, because when you like it, you find ways and means, look at tutorial, read the forums and see how to solve the problem and build it and beat the boss, and that become a fun journey for you. And there are many things that still young people don't really enjoy, or they don't really think of it seriously. Think of it like some kind of chores and work. I need to level up to the point that I can show the world how good I am.
I need to put in all my fundamentals. I need to do all these live drawing, read all books about
those are important.
Very
it's
important.
Just that when you approach it in a more entertaining way, then you will learn a lot faster.
That's true. It's not just like I got a forced memorization kind of like thing. That makes sense.
Second thing I would say about advice is that try to observe life in a more micro manner, because many people pass by life, go through life without actually looking at things, examining things in a more careful manner. I mean, for example, you want to draw a wet floor, for example. You walk down the street, you look at the wet floor, you can avoid it naturally. Then I ask my student, how do you know that floor is wet? Visually speaking,
Right.
so that you can avoid it. So if you understand the theory behind it, you can apply the same theory to your art and make the floor look wet in your painting. But many people just go to life in a whatever, but we don't actually look at things in a small way that you can actually learn a lot from.
So like appreciate the details around
Appreciate
you.
and question.
Yeah, and then like examine the details and the visual information.
Don't just take things for granted.
Yeah, that's a nice. I think that's like mindfulness almost.
Yes,
it's like
in a
a
way.
nice
It is.
philosophical idea that all of us can apply. I
Yes,
think.
Yeah.
it's
I
true.
think nowadays also like it's very, very important to be mindful. Like it's very we have to inculcate this sense of awareness of other people around us and also other
You're
things.
being bombarded with information. You just do this without actually looking at it. You just do this.
I know. I feel like TikTok also, right? You guys kind of scroll and then you don't process. You just kind of watch things going on and then it's loud. And like sometimes I think the other day I was like in a restaurant and I just see this tiny little child. All the parents are talking and then she's watching a little show on her phone. And I feel so stressed out for the kid because she's so young. I feel like if you get used to that at such a young age, then I'm just like, wow. Then
It's very common now.
Yeah, it's so common now, but I just get so worried for like kids when I see that
so
happen.
I really limit my time, the so-called the iPad time with my kids, and I even when they play certain games now, like my elder kid like to play Valorant and
He's a Valorant
yeah,
kid.
I'll still after that I'll still ask him what's so fun about the game. What character are you playing? What is the attribute of the character that you think you prefer over the other one? And give a chance for you to upgrade the character, change the character. What will you change? I'll still try to let him approach it in a more creator mindset.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Does he go like, Dad, stop, I want to play the game?
No, you make it fun because
is
he
it?
understand that he has a dad who draw character that he like. So it's totally relatable. I'm not like those old school dad. Whatever I'm doing in my life
cool
is
dad.
very relevant to what he's into.
True.
Yeah.
Does he find your work cool? Like, is he very into
Yeah, I
it?
think so. I think they like what I do.
Awesome.
And they also get inspired. They start to draw.
They're
But
drawing too.
it's not something that I will push to them as, you must be an artist because artist is tough.
Yes,
But if you can take art as a hobby, even just additional skills in life, I think that's fun.
Yeah, it's true. I think learning how to draw, like you can become a photographer or art director or something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good life skill to have.
Actually, the bottom line, I always give the message to my kids is that, even to my students, don't just be a consumer.
Yes.
Be a content creator in a big and small way. So try to contribute to the world rather than just consume it.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Like there's so much media in the world nowadays, right? Why not be the one who creates some of it, right?
Yes.
Rather than just like, being bombarded by different things and then not being able to
I will
influence.
pay you money for the content. Why don't you let people pay you money for your content?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
That would practical sense, right?
that's the ideal career path for all of
For
us.
sure. Everyone's like, just we give people things, you give us money. I guess that's basically what you're gonna be doing at Comic-Con. You're gonna be showing off your work and then getting people to pay for your content, right? So I think you've also been to a lot of numerous conventions, like both overseas and locally. So what was kind of like your most memorable experience at something like that?
I think my convention, right? Although my primary market is in the US because of the comic nature,
Of course.
personally I like Philippines a lot. I like the fans in Philippines. They're so passionate.
Yes.
Like they're really crazy. I mean, they don't have a lot of money to spend. So some of them, they will save up for one whole year just to buy one print from me.
Oh, wow.
But they will really appreciate it.
Actually, I love
And
that.
they show their appreciations. And so I love the kind of response. So I always set my price in Philippines the lowest possible. Like, just to
let them
be with them.
Yeah. I think the crowd there is also like, they're more enthusiastic, right?
Yes.
It's a bit different from like, say, Singapore Comic Con.
Yeah,
I think
Singapore
the
is very
crowds there,
reserved. They don't talk much.
people are like come up to you, don't say anything, just like give you.
But I guess also like some people like shy.
Shy.
I think naturally we also like Singaporeans, we are not that like we don't really do the whole like talking to the artist. I think we just kind of like shy. But speaking of SGCC, right, do you have like something that you're most looking forward to for SGCC?
Yeah, I have not been to a Singapore convention for a very long time. Usually the SGC happen when I have overseas conventions.
Yeah.
So I don't have a chance to. So, but with Paul managing the event, was thinking maybe it's time for me to return, at least for this year, because this year I don't have any other shows except SGCC.
Right.
And so I get the chance, so I pull all my art bodies over.
Like from Artgerm collectibles.
Yeah, Artgerm collectibles and just my emerging fan studio buddies. Just to have fun. So I think I'm going to meet a lot of fans who've been dying to meet me.
Yes, yeah.
Because of my long absence, it's all my fault.
When was the last time that you went to SGCC?
5-6 years ago.
Oh wow! Okay, guys, he's gonna make a rare appearance at SGCC. I'll stay tuned. Go find him.
Yeah, so that's something I look forward to.
Oh wow! Okay, I think people will be very excited then. Like since
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope they still remember me.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that like
you're gonna have long lines.
It's okay.
Yeah, for sure. I think we are just about running out of almost time. So perhaps just to finish off, maybe we could let us know like what other projects do we have to look forward to from you?
Currently, besides teaching, I think most of my time I'm dedicated to drawing comic covers, making statues.
Oh, statues? Like you sculpt?
No, I
Or
design.
Oh,
I design a lot
design.
of statues. The reason why I designed was Chun-Li.
Right. Oh, like characters, like modeling, character modeling.
Yeah, so like
what size is
quarter
it?
scale.
Oh wow. Okay, that's
Quarter
actually pretty amazing.
I also did Harley Quinn, Cyberpunk, Harley Quinn.
Oh, so like those kind of like
There's one
collectibles.
scale that's
Wow.
like this size.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I have quite a lot of fun doing that, and I'll continue to do that. Yeah, probably something. Should I say that? Probably something from Spy Family.
Oh,
my
Spy
gosh,
X Family.
okay.
Okay, I'm a big fan.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Spy
Okay,
Family.
very
Sure, someone
exciting.
told me.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people cosplaying Spy
Yeah,
Family this year.
yeah, my
Really
family
exciting.
love it.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Can imagine.
It's a CB show, but that's why they like it.
But it's kind of heartwarming in a way because of the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, the family
dynamic. Yes, I love the family dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But I think that's all we have for today. So thank you again to
You're welcome.
Artgerm. And thank you to SGCC, of course, for sponsoring today's episode and then for bringing you here together with us. And we have a lot to look forward to from SGCC and from Artgerm there. So make sure you guys check him out, follow him on Instagram, and also check us out as well. Follow us on Instagram, join our Discord community to learn more about local comic events, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.